On Friday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we hit number 1 on our top 5 countdown of the top fantasy centermen 22 years or under. We are hammering Friday's big-time bets and DFS selections, and thank you for riding with us for another full week.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on out there, hockey heads? Happy Friday, and welcome back to your favorite daily hockey podcast. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. We really, truly appreciate all the love. Continue to smash that subscribe button. Hit us up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find your favorite content. On today's show, we are here with the Friday feelings, people. We are taking a look at the 6-game DFS and big-time betting board. You know we have those picks. You know we have the targets for you. We are also hitting number 1 on our top 5 countdown of the top 5 fantasy centermen under the age of 22. 22 or under, I should say, Steele. That tricky title is getting me, but that is okay. My list has been debatable, sir. You've been on my case. I have a feeling you're going to be on my case again today with my selection, but I want to start off with yours, my friend. Thank you, as always, for being here, and hit me with your number 1 on this list, and thank you for riding with us all week, like I said, guys.
Yeah, you sort of teased it a little bit yesterday with your second overall pick for this top 5 list here. Mm-hmm. And he's my number 1 guy on this list, and that's Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. I think this guy is an absolute special player, and he's going to be big time for many, many years to come. He's got 335 fantasy points on the season. What really surprised me, though, is that he's only owned at 52% on Yahoo Fantasy Leagues and only 38% on ESPN Fantasy League. So I'm really shocked that he is not above at least 65%. Mm-hmm. You know, he is still a rookie, but a lot of rookies are picked up and are way higher than these stats right here. So I'm a little shocked about that. But look, Trevor Zegras, for me, he's already established himself that he is the face and the future for the Anaheim Ducks. He's got 13 goals on the season, 39 points in 47 games. And, you know, once Getzlaf retires, because Getzlaf is 36 years old right now, he's having he's having a decent year, a bounce back year for sure, compared to 2019, 2020. But look, when Getzlaf retires, he's going to be the number 1 centerman, playing with Troy Terry and Sonny Milano on that first line. You know, everything that we've seen him do over the course of this year, as well as in the World Juniors, he's shifty. He's got unbelievable imagination. We've seen him do the Michigan. We've seen him the pass over the net. We've seen that incredible shootout move in the All-Star game. So this guy,
you love that move.
I love that move. And it's for me because it's a great reference to Dodgeball. I love that movie. But look, this guy has an absolute incredible imagination. The way he's able to maneuver with the puck while he's skating at the speed that he does. Mm-hmm. For me, this guy has all of the things you need one of the top centermen to do. And being as young as he is, he's done exactly what I think he would have done in his first season. And for me, if it weren't for Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings, he would win the Calder Trophy this season. But Moritz Seider for the Red Wings has been absolutely incredible.
Seider or Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond's also going to be in the mix there. But look, Steele, you mentioned Zegras, you mentioned the All-Star game. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And I just got to throw that out there because that's my favorite line from that film. But I'll say this about Zegras, and maybe this is why the apprehension is there for his ownership, which I don't really get those numbers. I'm not really trying to make a real knock at Zegras, who looks to be a special player. But there's a reason why he's not number 1 on my list, and I'll make the case for my guy in a second, is just I could see this guy's career potentially going one-dimensional it's way too early to tell. I'm just trying to, like, devil's advocate this situation here a little bit. Is maybe he's a little bit too one-sided, a little bit too one-dimensional. If he doesn't start to fill out, is he really going to be able to play that two-way game? All of these are questions that it's too early in his career to answer, and everything right now is indicating he will be a special offensive talent. That's for sure. I can't argue with him at number one on your list for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. And just at the end of the day, for me, Trevor Zegras, when you're doing these special things, it comes down to confidence. So when you see that kind of confidence at a guy with his age, you got to keep an eye on him fantasy-wise, because if he can actually produce behind that confidence, Steele, I think you'll start to see a bunch of really high productive seasons in terms of points and goals from this kid.
Look, for me, I was a little bit shocked when you didn't have him first. I can see your reasoning there a little bit, that his game is a little bit one-dimensional. He is very offensive orientated. Like,
if I'm trying to poke holes, right? If we're trying to poke holes, and it's like, he's a great player and he's young, but if we're trying to, I'm devil's advocating here, that's where I'm going to go.
And I completely get that. We talk about the same thing with Jack Hughes. If Jack Hughes can stay healthy, and if he can gain a little bit of more muscle up front, then he's going to be a very special player if he can remain healthy. We've seen him have injuries over this season and a couple of times the last seasons as well. So they're in the same kind of boat. I think Trevor Zegras does need to put on some weight a little bit, get a little bit bigger so he can be more physical. He definitely has to work on his defensive game as well. I'm not saying that there isn't things that he has to work on, for sure, but he has the potential, out of all of the kids that we've listed off in this top 5 group, to be the best. And that's where I have him as the best for centerman.
And I can't disagree with you there. You make a really interesting point about injuries, right? And at the end of the day, this is sports. This is hockey. It's a physical game. When it comes to fantasy, you're always going to have to get a little bit lucky on the injury front. These are things you cannot predict, no matter how much research or how many episodes of this awesome podcast you listen to. Injuries are going to come your way, and you're going to have to deal with them. Case in point for my number one selection, and that's Josh Norris, who before going down, he's been out now almost, I think he's out. I got to check my stats here. He's been out almost 2 months. Is it? No, 16 games. Anyway, 16 games he's been out. Before that, he was having a sensational season, posting 18 goals in 36 games. 4 of those were game winners. At 22 years of age, he already has 35 career goals in 90 games in the NHL. And he's the prototypical centerman at 6'1" and 200 plus pounds, Steele. We talked about the other guys not having the size. Norris has the size. And what I would like to point out is, although he might not be the flashiest player on this list, he has already solidified himself as a player that can do a little bit of everything. And we've talked about the faceoff dot this week. I know you've been bringing that up, and I've loved that, because for these players at the center position, it's important. 52% career winning percentage in the dot already for Josh Norris. And to be honest, Steele, at the end of the day, what I love about this kid's game already is the guys he has around him. When Drake Batherson comes back and plays on his wing, that's a really dangerous fantasy combo. And sure, we've talked about players' talent. We've talked about the overall skills, but we're looking at this from a fantasy angle, which is why I have Josh Norris in there at my number one slot. The mix in the top 6 forward group with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk and Batherson, these guys are going to start clicking together in a very big way in the next season or two. Double circle all of these guys from a fantasy perspective. I know the Tkachuks and the Bathersons are owned, and they're going to be tough and pricey to get a hold of, Steele. And I don't know what you think about this overall, but I think this guy, he has the speed, he has the size, he has the smarts, the athleticism. Maybe not as flashy as Zegras, and maybe not a flashy a name, but he was a fourth place Calder vote getter in 2021, and he's the 2020 AHL Rookie of the Year. So keep your eyes on this kid, number one on my list.
Look, there's definitely some argument to have Josh Norris in the top 5. Even myself here, he was in my 6th position. I was thinking about having him either 5 or 4, but I couldn't do it with the guys I had at 5 and 4. I am honestly really, really flabbergasted, shocked, surprised that you have Josh Norris above and in front of guys like Nick Suzuki and Trevor Zegras.
That's okay.
Look, Josh Norris, no slouch. He's had an incredible career in the NHL so far. The injury bug has gotten got him a little bit with COVID as well. So look, I'm not saying this guy is not going to be a top centerman in this league, and he's not going to be that he is, he shouldn't be in this list. But to have him in front of guys like Nick Suzuki and Trevor Zegras to me it's shocking, Flip. I think I don't know where you're thinking with this, but for me, it's a little bit out there.
Well, my good friend Steele, the good thing about watching about 12 years more hockey than you is I know that not everything is potential. And when you look at a guy like Josh Norris and his overall game, he's way better. He's way better of a player than Trevor Zegras is overall. And I can see what you mean in terms of offensive talent, but this isn't just an offensive game. And it's not just an offensive fantasy angle, right? He's putting up block shots, hits, penalty minutes. Zegras doesn't even throw the body. He skates around in the middle of the ice. And sure, he's an offensive stud. But at the end of the day, I don't even think he'll hold a candle to what Josh Norris's career is. But that's the awesome part of letting this all play out. And the awesome part of about what's coming up next is I'm going to tell you about Built Bars. They are covered in 100% real chocolate. And while Steele and I don't see eye to eye on this list, we definitely can agree that Built Bars are delicious. They're low calorie. They're high protein. Replace those doo-doo candy bars with these. I say it almost every day. They are better. A typical candy bar will run you between 200 and 300 calories. This is almost half at 130 calories. 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. What more do you need to hear? They're coming out with delicious flavors all the time. Do not slip. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. Shout out to Steele's new favorite. They are all delicious, and there's new flavors coming out all the time. If you think their flavors might be good, they will make it for you. Trust me. At Built, they are all about the taste. Head over to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off. Thank you so much, guys, for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele your first listen every single day. For your next listen, you might as well check out the Locked On Now podcast. It's nightly recaps of the NHL games with analysis from all of our local experts. And just like this podcast, it is free everywhere you get your favorite content. And seriously, guys, thank you so much for being here with us today. Friday's episode, we just finished the top 5 countdown. Steele's calling me out for my questionable number 1 selection, and that is okay. Let us know what you think about our selections. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit Steele and I up in the DMs. Let us know what you're thinking. Where would you have these guys in your selections? Speaking of selections, I'm turning it over to the DFS guru, the Puckline King, Mr. Roden. We are taking a look at Friday's 6-game DFS board, good sir. I have a couple of sneaky under-the-radar targets that I have ready for you, but who are we looking at here for Friday's 6-game board?
Look, looking at the schedule for Friday night, we haven't shown a lot of love to the Chicago Blackhawks this entire year.
Here we go.
Because there hasn't been much love to give them. We have dogged them just, a little bit too frequently. So for me, the Chicago Blackhawks versus the New Jersey Devils, the Blackhawks are playing at home. And for me, you can't go wrong with guys like Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. Kane, 49 points, DeBrincat, 42 points. Even Dylan Strome, he's centering that top line. He's got 21 points in 39 games. I am going to go with that top line for the Chicago Blackhawks because of how well Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane play together. Those guys, they're obviously going to be $6,500 upwards of that as well. So they might be a little bit too expensive, or not too expensive. They're a little bit expensive, but completely worth it going up against this New Jersey Devils team. And then I'm throwing Dylan Strome in there because he's going to be a cheap option. He's on a 4-game pointless drought right now. He hasn't played up to par. Going up against the Devils, this is the game that he can potentially get back on the wagon and put some pucks on net and get some pucks in the net, of course. So for me, that's going to be a cheap option for the Chicago Blackhawks, and then just pair him up with his line mates on the wing, DeBrincat and Patrick Kane, and that will leave enough budget for the second matchup I have going into Friday night.
This is an intriguing little angle you have here, sir, because usually you and I, when it comes to these games, we almost always agree. I don't know if you're going to like my angle for this game when it comes to the big-time bets in a few seconds here. So I'll just leave that game alone. The game that I'm really looking at, Steele, from what I think, and I'll tease it a little bit, from what I think could be a very high-scoring game, is the LA Kings at Anaheim Ducks. And I'll talk about those trends and those stats in a second.
My boy Zegras. My boy Zegras.
There he is. There he is. Number 2 in your hearts, number 1 in Steele's playbook. But no, in all seriousness, I think there's a ton of value here in this Anaheim Ducks LA Kings matchup. I'm always saying look down the lineup. I'm doing the same here. I'm going to start with the Kings' second line of Danault, Trevor Moore, and Arvidsson.
Yes.
Arvidsson's been red hot, and he's on pace to almost crack 30 goals. That's a really good signing for the LA Kings. He put up 2 goals the other night. I like his option here on the second line. He's playing well with Danault and Trevor Moore. I think that there could be some value here on the Kings side. And what I do see this being a high-scoring game. And before I flip it back over to you, Steele, I also like the guys down the Ducks lineup and a dude like Isaac Lunderstrom, who will be cheap, who's got a couple of goals and a couple of points in his last 5 games. So look down those lineups in what I expect to be a high-scoring game. So I would say you can't really go wrong with either of the bottom 9, bottom 6 guys on the LA Kings and Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, that was also a game that I was looking to for my DraftKings lineup as well for daily fantasy. I stayed away with it because I feel a little bit more comfortable with the Chicago Blackhawks angle.
Fair.
Going up against this Devils team. You know, they get absolutely blown out or they blow people out in these matchups. So for me, I like going with guys like Patrick Kane and DeBrincat. They're not going to be too expensive because the Blackhawks have been terrible this year and because of the second matchup I'm going with, and that's the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Arizona Coyotes.
Yep.
I am hammering hard with Jack Eichel, Chandler Stevenson, and Shea Theodore.
Jack Eichel.
Oh, Jack Eichel, that guy. I remember him.
We might be talking about him in a minute for big time bet Steele. So keep rolling with this Eichel.
I know we're talking about
Jack it right up, baby. Let's go.
Well. But look, I don't think Jack Eichel is going to be too expensive because, again, he's got 3 points in 3 games. He's not going to be over the top expensive because he is still coming back from that injury and the surgery as well. So a guy like Jack Eichel, I'm hammering hard against this Arizona Coyotes team. He's playing with Chandler Stevenson, who's been red hot playing with Eichel as well. Chandler Stevenson, he actually has the most points for the Vegas Golden Knights this season with 40 on the season for him.
That's a
and
stat.
Then on the blue line, I'm going with Shea Theodore, arguably the best defenseman for the Vegas Golden Knights. I know they got Alex Pietrangelo, but for me, Shea Theodore has a lot more upside because he is younger. He has a little bit more offensive capabilities than Pietrangelo, and that's saying a lot right there. But again, Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore, they're obviously going to be 6,000 upwards in that range as well. And then Chandler Stevenson probably between 4,500 to 5,000 as well.
That is a very interesting stat that Chandler Stevenson is leading the Golden Knights in points and very indicative of the injuries they've had to deal with.
Exactly,
Could you imagine where they'd be sitting if everyone was healthy and they had Eichel back? You can only really imagine because they are very, very much in the mix there in that Pacific Division. And, without getting too far down to that, I think that this is a critical game for the Golden Knights. I've been talking about this portion of this NHL schedule in terms of the playoffs upcoming. When you play teams like this, the Golden Knights, they have the caliber of team that have the ability to make a cup run. You need to be spanking these teams like the Arizona Coyotes, and hopefully that means big things for their forward group in terms of offensive production.
Yeah, especially too because they're 6 points back or 4 points back of the Calgary Flames in the Pacific Division, with the Flames still having two games in hand. So if they want to finish the top of their division and they want a little bit of an easier playoff run to start off in round 1, they got to start winning these games. They got to win this game because it's against the worst team in the NHL, the Arizona Coyotes. So you're absolutely right there. I can't wait to dive into our bets. And before we get to the big time bets, where you can place these bets and DFS selections is betonline.net. Football might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, which also includes YouTube. So like Flip always says, hammer that subscribe and follow button. Please hit the subscribe and follow. We appreciate all the support you give us out there. So thank you so much for that. Flip, we were just talking about how the Vegas Golden Knights, they have to win these games, especially against the lower tier teams in the NHL. And, you know, we teased it a little bit with Jack Daddy over there, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. I actually have 2 bets from that game, but I want to hear yours first.
I appreciate that, sir. And I will save my Golden Knights pick for the end because that is the game where my lock of the night comes from. And not to jinx myself, starting Monday, I am 3 for 3 with the locks of the night this week. Looking to stay rolling. Hopefully Thursday's bangs. I've just officially jinxed myself, so there you go. My first pick, though, and I'll go back to what I was talking about with this Anaheim Ducks LA Kings game. Looking at this game from a recent and overall trend perspective, everything is pointing me in the direction of an over, which is what I'm doing. The line opened at only 5.5, which I could have seen easily be higher. It could be higher by the time you hear this and go to make a bet. If you can get it at 5.5, jump on that right away. Jump on the over. Even at 6, it's currently 5.5 at -120. I'm going to hammer this over personally. The total has gone over the number in 5 straight games for the Ducks and 6 of the last 7 for the Kings overall. Just looking at their overall matchups, they are involved in games that are 7-4, 6-3. Like, it's crazy, left and right. The total has also gone over the number in 5 of LA's last 7 trips to Anaheim. And the 2 most recent games, 17 total goals scored, Steele, in across 120 minutes of hockey. That is a S-ton load of goals. I don't really know why the number didn't open at 6, but that is my first pick of Friday night over in the LA Anaheim game. Thank me later.
I like that a lot, especially since the LA Kings, they're in a playoff spot right now. They're on a 3-game win streak as well. They're ahead of the Edmonton Oilers in that division. So again, you got to hammer the over on this game. They've been playing absolutely well as those picks you said in the DFS selection. Entire line for the LA Kings, I would completely go with them as well. If you don't feel the Vegas Golden Knights and the Chicago Blackhawks. For me, I'm taking the easy one here. I'm taking the Colorado Avalanche on the money line at -200. They are playing the Winnipeg Jets. The Colorado Avalanche are at home, so I am taking the money line. The Jets have just been very inconsistent. Flip and I have talked about them very recently about how inconsistent they have been.
It's true.
So again, for me, that's easy money right there. McKinnon was out with a lower body injury. We're hoping that he's back in this game on Friday night. But again, make sure you're checking your lineups. See if he is back in the game. That might have some influence on your decision. But again, they still have so many dogs up front. You can't go wrong with them. I will jump into my second and third bets of the night. They come from the same game. It is the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Arizona Coyotes. I am taking the Golden Knights on the puck line. I am the puck line guru. I've been hammering hard on the puck line. It's been absolutely hitting home runs for me pretty much. I'm getting money in my pocket all the time from these puck line bets. So there we go. Golden Knights on the puck line. And then I am sprinkling some money on Jack Eichel anytime goal. That's what I'm going with as well in this game. But of course, my lock of the night will be the Golden Knights on the puck line.
You're going a little safer for it, and that's okay. These are some of the spots in this season, and I've talked about it now twice, that these teams really have to be dusting aside the lower quality squads that they're playing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch either of those games from a straight winner perspective. Excuse me. I will say this, though. I absolutely love what you're talking about with Jack Eichel, and I will give my lock of the night in 1 second. My second pick that I'm really liking, and it's plus the odds here. We're getting +130 for the Devils on the money line in Chicago. Oof. I know you talked about the Chicago Blackhawks having a good night offensively, and I could see that. But I also like this spot for the New Jersey Devils, who are having some key pieces return from injury, including their #1 defenseman and a Norris threat in Dougie Hamilton. He was back in the lineup last night for the first time in 2 months. And I think along with Andreas Janssen and Jesper Bratt's return, this lineup looks a lot different. And I think that morale going is just going to be a little bit too much for the Blackhawks to handle. Side note, stat dump, Devils have points in 9 of their last 10 against the Blackhawks. And sure, the Devils have lost back-to-back games, But let's please note that was against the Tampa Bay Lightning and Pittsburgh Penguins. Before that, that was 2 straight wins, and they've looked a lot better since the All-Star break. I think we can both agree on that. I like this spot for the Devils. I like the odd. With all these players coming back from injury, this is going to be a fired-up squad. And with Dougie Hamilton on their blue line, they look like a completely different team defensively. And I like all of those things, plus the juice. Give me the plus 130 for the Devils on the money line, Steele. That's my second pick of the night, and I'll keep this short and sweet. Jack Eichel, anytime assist for my lock of the night. The Vegas Golden Knights, in the past 2 games against the Coyotes, have put up a crooked 10 goals in 2 games, including their last time out, a 7 spot on the Coyotes. I think the Golden Knights have a big offensive night. That's going to be good news for your Jack bet. It's good news for my Jack bet.
That's beautiful, Flip. Okay, lock of the night for Flip. Anytime assist from Jack Eichel. My lock of the night is going to be the Golden Knights puck line. So the lock of the nights are both coming from this game, which pretty much means it's going to happen. It's going to win. Not to jinx it, but we've been pretty red hot so far with these picks. The lock of the night, especially you, good sir. So I love that we're both on the same page here for the Vegas Golden Knights. Thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast your first listen every day. If you want more gambling advice on what you should pick, but for not just hockey, make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So please go hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, show your love. We appreciate all the support you give us out there. And once you hit the subscribe and follow button, you will get the latest episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as it's available each and every day, which is 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time from Monday to Friday. So please go hit the subscribe and the follow button. We appreciate all the support. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets. Hammer hard on the Vegas Golden Knights. Have a great weekend, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.